Hi everyone, it's Donovan from Serverless Solutions, and today we're going to be doing an AI deep dive on MCP. Now, MCP may have been showing up in some of your feeds, you might have been hearing things about it, and you may have even read some articles that do a high-level explanation of it. But what we'd like to do is couple that with some real-world examples and actually build out an MCP server together so that you can learn more about this technology and why it will probably be an important part of your AI roadmap. So just in case you're unfamiliar with MCP, we'll do a brief overview here at modelcontextprotocol.io. It reads that MCP is an open protocol that standardizes how applications provide context to LLMs. Think of MCP like a USB-C port for AI applications. Just as USB-C provides a standardized way to connect your devices to various peripherals and accessories, MCP provides a standardized way to connect AI models to different data sources and tools. Now that may work for a high-level explanation, but what does it actually mean? What MCP does is it allows us to bridge the gap between AI agents that we're building or AI agents that already exist and our own data or actions that we want the LLM to take. Now, if that all sounded like a bunch of word salad or tech trending bingo, you're kind of right. So let's break down how we might use MCP in real-life situations. Now, let's say you've been tasked with building an AI agent for a domain space within your company, and that domain happens to have what we would technically call loads of information in perhaps disparate sources. What you want to ensure is that your agent is providing relevant information back to your end users. If this is starting to sound a lot like RAG architecture, it is, and we're going to use it as a starting point to help you understand some of the benefits of MCP. And let's say you decide to place an Azure AI Search Index on top of your data. Azure AI Search Index is a great way to both vectorize your data and provide semantic searches on that data in order to better ground your LLM so that it provides more relevant results and avoids hallucinations. In your first attempt at creating an agent, you choose to use LangChain. Now, LangChain has its own tool designed to integrate with Azure AI Search. And this has never happened to me before. But perhaps the tool that's provided by the framework doesn't take full advantage of the feature set available to your source, in this case, Azure AI Search. So then you might try some other frameworks like Semantic Kernel developed by Microsoft, thinking that surely it will take full advantage of the feature set of Azure AI Search, only to find that its toolset does not. And then someone comes by and says, hey, wouldn't it be great if this agent were integrated with Teams? So then you start thinking about deployment models and you discover that Azure AI Studio might be a good fit for easy deployments to Teams. And it has a completely different way of connecting with Azure AI Search that may or may not take advantage of its full feature set. Are you starting to see a pattern here? But what if you were able to provide one bridge and one interface between these different options, not to mention VS Code or Claude Desktop? Hello from the editing booth. It looks like Microsoft Build just announced that MCP is being released to pretty much everything, including Windows. So that list of integrations gonna go way up, so that you could provide the same set of functionality to any of these solutions without reinventing the wheel each time. This is when something like MCP can help you in your development process. And it's not just connecting to all these different sources, but you may have different teams working on exposing different sets of functionality or information to your agents. And this allows you to decouple that development between teams as well. Now, if all that sounds interesting or exciting to you, let's go ahead and dive in by creating our own MCP server and integrating it with Visual Studio Code. Now, I've built a database for a fictional game that I'd like my agent to have context to. Some common examples that I'm sure you've heard about for MCP are providing database context to your code editor or IDE. Now, I'm not sure this is the best use case, as VS Code and other IDEs already have ways to integrate with your databases, and some of them already provide that context to your development environment. What I think might fit better in a real-world scenario is that you likely have a data source with an API on top of it already. You're not looking to directly integrate with the database, as you've already standardized the interactions that you want to have with this data. First off, we're going to use VS Code's agent mode to provide a prompt for the type of API that we want to build. What we'll do is tell it to create a .NET API using Entity Framework in order to scaffold the database interaction. I'm going to ask the agent to create read-only endpoints that I can use to provide context to my users. As you can see, using VS Code's agent mode is actually pretty darn useful at banging out some quick applications. In fact, we tested out all the different models available to VS Code agent mode so that you don't have to. We've got another video on that if you want to check it out. So with a few quick iterations, we already have a working API that sits on top of our data. Now it's time to build out our MCP server. For this example, we'll be building out an MCP server that communicates over standard input and output. If you're going to connect to an agent that you don't directly manage, like one built in Copilot Studio, you'll want to use server sent events instead. That being said, let's dive into it. I've created a .NET project with the Model Context Protocol NuGet package installed. This is going to allow us to build out an MCP server. We'll go ahead and add some base boilerplate from the SDK's GitHub site. We'll also ensure that we specify an mcp.json file in our .vs code folder in our overall project structure. And you'll see I even use Copilot to help me fix the code that I wrote wrong the first time in order to start the server. So, yay AI. Now that we have our MCP server running, we're going to go ahead and restart our chat session and see if GitHub Copilot will use the new tool we've provided it. And there we go. The tool's echoing out a statement that is then used by the agent in its response. So far, not super impressive. So let's go ahead and connect it to our data. So since I love AI development so much, I decided to use AI to build my AI so that I could AI while I... That meme is old, and so am I. Anyways, I'm just going to use Copilot Agent to help me write the MCP server that it's going to use to answer my questions. Then I use agent mode to make sure that I'm using HTTP client in the proper way, and then enable my tool in VS Code, and then it's off to the races. As you can see, I can start asking questions about my game to VS Code's agent, and it will give me answers provided directly from the API that I've hosted on my MCP server. Now that we've talked about what MCP is and built our own MCP server and integrated it with an actual agent, we'd love to hear back from you. How are you using or planning to use MCP as part of your Agentic AI solutions? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you next time.